Go ahead, Nicole, whenever you're ready.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Long time no see. So yeah, roll call. I'm assuming Barb's got roll call all done. So just some few things I'm going to go over just as we navigate this new way of doing meetings. Please remain muted when not speaking to reduce feedback. Ensure that your webcam is on if possible. Staff will be requested to join the video meeting should the need to answer questions arise. Any member of the committee should indicate they wish to speak by pressing the raise hand button on the participant list screen. In the event a service or connection interruption occurs and it affects quorum, we may recess the meeting for up to 15 minutes to regain quorum. If quorum is not achieved, the meeting will be adjourned. All members of the committee participating via online video conference will vote by a physical show of hands. The chair will indicate to leave your hands raised until she has determined the results of the vote. And thanks everyone for your patience as we navigate this new pathway for meetings. Any declarations of conflict of interest from the agenda? How are we recording that? Just the raise hand function?
Yeah, I think in that case, how about speaking is using the raise hand button, but actual indications of votes will be by physically raising.
Okay. Is that, then Barb will record that?
Correct.
Okay, sounds good. There's no presentations, so items for consideration. We have 2. So Tara is going to talk to us about 4.1, the Canadian Industrial Heritage Center Release Agreement. So to you, Tara.
Thank you, Nicole. So confirming, welcome Brownfields Community Advisory Committee, and thanks for making yourselves available for this meeting today. The item that I wanted to raise before you was an item I first sent you an email for, but we realized that it would be much easier and a more fruitful discussion if we had an in-person meeting for this. And whatever comments are discussed today will be put into a memo and shared with council. So the package that I sent you did have quite a bit of reading, but hopefully it wasn't hard for you to understand the gist of what we're asking. So I think most of you know about 66 Mohawk Street, which is part of the larger Greenwich Mohawk site, and that there are 2 existing sort of remnant structures that we call the timekeeper's office building, as well as the sort of portico component. And so back in 2013, there was a museum sort of education interpretation group called the Canadian Industrial Heritage Center, who wanted to, who requested of the city to be able to use those remnant buildings and 2 acres around them to establish a interpretive center to share industrial heritage of the larger Cockshut and Greenwich, Massey industries of the past. So council approved that back in 2013 and directed staff to put together a lease agreement for the 2 acres. As part of coming to an agreement and finalizing that lease, there was a number of things had to be resolved, including the fact that the area is not zoned for museum uses, so that had to be resolved, and of course the remediation took place. So yes, 2013 is a little while ago, but finally the staff were at a point where we were able to now put together that lease agreement. And we've got Ron Gasparetto here, who is the manager of real estate, who was the one who drafted that lease agreement. So should there be any questions, Ron is here to answer them. So as part of the 2013 resolution, it was put council referred a matter back to the committee because I don't know if Janice, and I'll let you jump in in a second, but you and Dara presented to members of council back then to say you just wanted to be sure that the CIHC had a timeline in place to come back with a financing and development plan. And as I wrote in the memo, my recollection of that was because it was just to make sure that by awarding a lease to this group who at the time it wasn't sure that they had a lot of funding, that they didn't stall the remediation process. That's my recollection of that conversation, and I include in the minutes of that April 2013 meeting of the committee. There wasn't, unfortunately, that much detail there. So really, at this point in time, it's just an opportunity for the committee to ask any questions they have of this lease agreement to this particular group and comment on whether, anything that you can think of that relates to that lease agreement and the well-being of the site as a remediated brownfield site. So I'm gonna, if Janice has anything to add, because she is the only member from the committee back then who is still a member today. But otherwise, I'll open the floor to anyone to speak.
Yeah, I basically remember part of this. I mean, we're talking 7 years ago. But we asked them if they had any plans on how they are going to raise, people say millions of dollars. And to this date, I don't know if anybody knows whether or not they've got any firm donations or any speculations of having definite donations. Because if they don't, then theirs will just fall through. That's it.
I know that's a fair comment, and I'm glad you were able to remember some of that discussion. Is there any other questions or comments about the lease agreement? Tamara?
Sorry, I just unmuted myself. I actually had 2 questions just because I'm new. So of course, at the time, I understand that like this was a great, useful, purpose-driven to make sure that at least some of this property was being utilized, and of course the timekeepers building, preserved, right? And so it's perfect. I think it's a great idea that we get a museum like that in there. I did wonder, the OMB hearing that's going on, like why is the neighbor opposing something like this? Like you would think that most neighbors in that area would be happy to see that beautifully landscaped grounds with a museum close by. Like it brings a new character to the area. So that was my first question. I don't know, do we want to answer that first? Anybody?
Sure. Yeah, I'll that's a very good question, Tamara. So we can't know for sure, but or maybe we do know for sure. I don't know, Ron, maybe step in before I reveal who the neighbor was. Do we know for sure? That's public?
Through the chair. I guess one of the reasons would be because they're a longstanding industrial use, and any rezoning away from that industrial use could threaten their existing use. So whether there's anything behind that, but I think that was the basis for the appeal, was that they have an existing industrial use, and they didn't want anything to jeopardize that for future expansion or whatever.
Yeah, because I was just thinking that like some of that area we were thinking of doing like multi-purpose residential, commercial, and that kind of thing. So which would have been I would think, a far greater stretch to their industrial zoning than this is. But my other question, they said in there about bringing the building up to code for like fire safety and things like that. Would that be one of the costs that the city would be incurring, or that's part of the, like Jana said, like, is that supposed to be coming out of the money that this CIHC is supposed to be providing?
Those types of costs are the responsibility of CIHC.
Okay.
Any improvements to the buildings like that would be their responsibility, and they are aware of that, and it is spelled out in the lease.
Okay. That's yeah, that would be where the big money would come in from. Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else with questions? Okay, well, I mean, maybe I'll just explain process, and then if you had anything further, and maybe I'll just summarize what I might put in this memo. So I can put those questions into the memo as well, Tamara. And really, we're just sharing these thoughts with members of council for their November 24th meeting. Keep in mind, on November 4th, the lease agreement already was approved at the committee of the whole level. So it is already set to be approved, and it just needs to be ratified on the 24th. So if there's nothing,
Tara,
no other, yeah.
I just want to take a second here. I'm going to, sorry, I had to mute Barb's computer there. I'm going to unmute Gord just to make sure, because I know he's been having some technical difficulties here, just to make sure Gord doesn't have any questions. So Gord, I'm going to unmute you, or at least ask you to unmute. If you have any questions, let us know, and then if not, I can mute you again. Okay, I'm not getting a response from Gord, so just move on, Tara, thanks.
Okay. Okay, so Nicole, you'll need to be the signer of this of the memo to represent the committee. I'll just say that that the group had a couple of questions, and reiterated some concerns from 2013, as Janice pointed out, but there is nothing further to state. Gord, I hear you unmuted. Are you there?
I am here.
And did you have any comments? Because we couldn't see or hear whether.
The only comment I have was they proposed to have 20 parking spaces on the property, and it seems like that would make it mostly a parking lot, except for the buildings themselves. And there's a large amount of parking available on Mohawk Street.
Can you clarify where you saw the 20 parking spaces? Is that in their letter as an attachment?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
But in those many pages, I can't remember exactly where.
Okay. Ron, did you have any comment on parking?
Not really. The lease doesn't really address, it demises the area of 2 acres, but how it's used is going to be dependent on, if they require site plan or anything like that through a process, through planning. We haven't seen anything like that. So I really can't comment on the 20 spaces. However, 20 spaces wouldn't take up a whole lot in terms of 2 acres of lands, but we'd have to wait and see a site plan for that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, there's still a process they have to go through. So before they can, do any work on the site as well, they'll need to go through a zoning bylaw amendment, which will identify exactly how many parking spots, how their buildings will be situated, how the public will go in and out of the site. So lots of opportunities still to address any future concerns or potential concerns.
Great, thanks.
Okay, so I can add that to the memo as well. Okay, well, if there's nothing else, then I'll turn it back over to Nicole. And we can say goodbye to Ron.
Thanks, Ron.
All right, so we're looking for a mover and a seconder of the following motion. That the comments regarding the CIHC, or do we have to discuss first? Or we already discussed, right? Oh, I can't hear you, Tara.
Yeah, you can open it one more time after you read the motion.
Okay. Okay. So that the comments regarding the CIHC lease agreement discussed at this meeting be conveyed to City Council through a memo. We need a seconder, or a mover and a seconder.
Janice. And Tamara.
I'll second.
Oh, Tamara or Gord.
Okay, any more discussion, questions? I'm assuming, no, you don't see anybody, Josh? Okay, all in favor? I guess just physically raise your hand and they'll count.
I'm in favor.
Thank
If
you,
you can't
Gord.
see.
Yep, thank you. Perfect, thank you.
Did you get everyone?
Perfect, thank you.
Did you guys get it recorded?
We're good, we have it, thank you.
Okay, what's the, carried or?
Yes.
Okay,
Carried.
so that's carried. I guess anybody opposed? I'm assuming if you didn't vote yes, you're opposed. Okay. So now we're moving to 4.2, which is priorities for 2021. Tara again.
Thanks, Nicole. So I have this item on the agenda because it was on your February agenda before, and then it was supposed to go on the March agenda to discuss before that meeting got canceled. So I just wanted to put it on the agenda again to revisit it, but not necessarily for the group to make a decision, just to have sort of an open discussion, and perhaps the Councillor Wall may weigh in as well, just so that this group can sort of get a feel of what now and into the future it might be for the next little while if committees can't meet regularly. So just so you know, currently as it stands, advisory committees are encouraged to not meet unless it's imperative. And that's due to the fact that online meetings do take all that extra staff time, as you saw today, just earlier. And with so many meetings happening that are very important and must run, it's just becomes a staffing issue to have the extra advisor committees. That being said, I think this committee does need to meet hopefully in the new year to address maybe one or two future Brownfield incentive program applications. So we're sort of seeing interest out there. So just anticipating that in the new year, they might be full applications. So you may be meeting in the future, but unless there is a decision like that, we're not going to have you meet regularly. So when it comes to the priorities, you'll see in your earlier report for 2020 what your priorities were back then, and they may still be applicable for 2021, but just some things to think about is the two aspects. If you're not meeting regularly as a group, then that means if you are doing any work towards these goals, and this kind of relates to all the items in section 5.4, all the projects, then you'll have to do that amongst yourselves through email only, right? So I wanted to put it out there that as a group you may not be that motivated to do that work outside having the obligation or the opportunity to meet every month. So just keep that in mind, right? If that changes what the priorities are. That being said, though, really the funding is still there as far as we know, and and hopefully, there could be still conferences that members could attend in an online setting, perhaps. I looked up that conference that was listed from before, and it's still scheduled for June. So currently, if June is, we don't know what June is going to look like. So it may actually be an in-person conference. It may not. It may be offered in another way. So that's what I wanted to put out there, and then again, like, open the floor to members to discuss.
Yeah, so if you guys have any comments, Councillor Wall, go for it.
Awesome, thank you. Through the chair. A lot of different, there's an opportunity to have meetings to be called at the request of the chair versus it being a mandatory meeting. And unless there's pressing business, because of COVID and because of the staff resources that would need to be used to have these meetings, it could simply be, should staff think there needs to be a meeting because a decision is coming to council that would be affected, or we would need commentary from this committee. We could simply maybe strike a motion that's something along the lines of, we'll meet quarterly or at the call of the chair. So we're not meeting at all, right? Because it's still important, even quarterly or biannual. I mean, we don't know where COVID's going to go or how things are going to go, but we could perhaps, sorry, I'm just talking out loud here, but we could perhaps have a meeting in January to solidify what we want to see our priorities be for the year, talk them out, and then basically meet again just before summer. And if something comes up where we need, it would just be at the call of Nicole, our chair, I think, unless we have to have an election before then. So that's kind of my thoughts. I would rather see somebody else move that particular motion just because this is your committee, not mine. But I sit on a lot of different committees like this, and ultimately, that's just a way that, could work for this committee. So that's what I've got. And I am thankful you're all here. It's great to see you all again. Thank you so much for everybody who attended.
Nicole, through you, I think that, as Tara I kind of indicated, if there is some interest being shown in the BIFTIBs, kind of having that two-pronged approach, as Councillor Wall had identified, might be a good idea, just in case something does come up where, through the request of the chair, the committee did need to meet to review something like that. That might be a good approach.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was on mute. Yeah, I agree. Like, if there is BIFTIP applications, I don't think we should cause COVID to delay it. I don't want people to be turned off with how long it takes for a decision to be made. Like, I'm sure most of them are aware that things are slower now with the way things are going, but meaning when there's pressing things like BIFTIP or the thing we just talked about, I think it's important that we can meet however way that we can to discuss those.
Did anyone want to comment on any of the priorities that were previously discussed? Is there any opportunity that people, I don't know, or even if they need to be readdressed if things went back to normal?
Sorry, is the draft official plan available? Like, that was one of our items high up on the list at the time. How far did they get with that?
Thanks, Tamara. So I can speak to that component. So obviously, I think in some of our previous committee meetings, we were hopeful that we would be able to get out to a number of the committees to kind of talk about the draft OP. Unfortunately, with COVID, a lot of the committee meetings didn't happen. So short, I'd be happy to share with you the latest draft official plan. It's available on the official plan review website. It's been released in addition to a number of companion documents that includes the block plan terms of reference, the urban design manual, and the infrastructure staging report, sorry. So I would be more than happy to share a link to that website so that you guys can review that. And if anyone here has questions about it, feel free to send myself an email or the senior planner on the file, Alan Waterfield. Our email addresses are both on the bottom of that webpage. Obviously, you guys have my email contact, so please reach out if you do have any questions in regards to any of those documents. There is a special committee meeting this Thursday for the OP starting at 3:30, but all that information is also available on the webpage. And like I said, I'll forward that link to committee members so you guys can review it and the additional documents, okay?
Okay, thanks, Josh. Well, Nicole, I'll leave it up to you. Do you want to keep the discussion going, or you go ahead and decide what comes next out of this?
I mean, if there's no, so what's the motion on the table? We don't really need to do a motion, do we?
Not necessarily. Maybe just simply acknowledge that priorities for 2021 are, to be considered at a future date.
Meetings
Okay.
ad hoc.
Oh, Tamara's pointing out about meeting.
Just ad hoc. Do that.
Sorry, what was that, Tamara?
Just putting meetings ad hoc.
At the request of the chair.
Yeah.
Yep. We can do that. Again, I'm not sure if we need a motion for that or.
To be honest, I think already your mandate of the committee is already to meet as needed.
Yes.
Okay. So basically we'll meet as things arise for now until hopefully COVID goes away. So, okay.
It is good that everyone was able to get on. It's nice to have this little test run. So should there need to be another meeting, we know how to do it.
Okay, I guess we can move on to consent items. Geez, minutes from February 13th. Is that supposed to say 2020? Not 2019?
I believe you had a meeting earlier this year in 2020.
Yeah, it feels like a while ago, but it is February 2020. Yeah.
Okay, no, it's just on the what I'm reading, it says February 13th, 2019.
Oh, that was my mistake. Sorry.
Oh, okay. So February 13th, 2020 be approved. We need a mover and a seconder on that.
I'll move it.
Tamara and Gord.
Yes.
Tamara, sorry.
Okay. All in favor, again, just raise your hand.
Okay, carried.
Perfect. Business arising from minutes. The only thing I see here is committee membership and appointments 2021 and beyond. I don't know anything about that. Can Josh or Tara talk to that?
Sorry, Nicole. Yes. So this was an item that kind of got raised at your last committee meeting, which was the issue of membership and attendance. So Josh, did you want to just share the recent news?
Yeah, I mean, thanks, Tara, for clarifying that point. But Nicole, actually, I think I forwarded you an update. So maybe if you wanted to update the committee on the recent vacancy, I'll give you that opportunity.
Sorry, I totally forgot about that email.
That's okay. That's okay.
So Jason has sent in an email saying he will no longer be on the committee. So we do have a vacancy. I think he sent that fairly recently. So we currently have one vacancy on the committee, or is there more than that?
Good question. I don't, I think there's 2 vacancies, Nicole. There's 8 citizen members, and we do have 6.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
And so the recent resignation has been passed along to clerks. So that will be followed up with accordingly in terms of, looking at appointments moving forward.
Okay. So if anybody knows anybody that wants to join, we've got 2 spots open. Is that the only thing with that?
For me, I just wanted to add that there was a recent appointments committee by council, and the decision isn't ratified yet until the 24th. But if anyone did apply, then there may be members.
Okay.
Then hopefully later this month, a decision will be made and announced.
Okay. Okay, awesome. So that's all with that. We've got information items, Greenwich Mohawk remediation. Any update there, Tara?
I do. I finally have the biggest news that we can give, and it feels a little, like a little bit deflating to say it in this way. But the record of site condition for the Greenwich Mohawk Brownfield site was filed and acknowledged, and that's like the end. That is the big thing that we were working towards all this time. So that occurred at the end of October, and that's that it was a success, and it means that the site is able to be redeveloped for the uses that the community and staff have been working forward. So it is done. Done. I see some hands raised.
Go ahead, Janice. You just have to click the unmute. There
Yes.
you are.
I was going to bring that up. I saw many trucks, like more than normal. So they must have really done a banged up job of site development there. But yeah, I couldn't believe. I thought normally I'll see a few trucks in there checking out the pipes and all that. But there was
Recently.
Yeah.
Okay.
Looking good. Yep.
To update that is part of so while we're done, there is a requirement to spend 2 years just checking on the groundwater. And because it's been a while since some of those monitoring wells have been placed in the site, they had to drill some new ones. So those trucks are probably what you saw. We're drilling a couple of new wells to use for the next 2 years to check on groundwater and make sure everything is still fine.
That's great. Thank you.
Were there any other hands? Sorry, Tara, I think you had identified 2 hands. Maybe I missed the second. No, okay.
Well, that is awesome news. So congrats everybody that was working on that. That's awesome news. Just I guess out of curiosity, like what's the next steps? Like, do we have to wait those 2 years before anything can be done, or can hypothetically like the site be used as soon as possible?
That's a good question, Nicole. So hypothetically, yes, the site could be put into construction mode soon. However, where there is a delay is that an official plan amendment and a zoning bylaw amendment has to take place. So right now, still the property is zoned for industrial uses. So we don't want any more industrial uses. So we'd whoever comes in to either buy the property or redevelop it would need to rezone it and have that in place. So of course that takes a couple of months, if not a year, to do that. So by the time rezoning and official plan takes place, the 2-year period of monitoring will also be done, likely, or they'll line up pretty nicely.
Okay. Sounds good. Any other questions about that? No? Okay, then we will move on to Josh with Sydenham Pearl.
Yeah, so no updates for Sydenham Pearl. It's a little bit similar to Tara's project. There's still some ongoing monitoring requirements that are being followed up with through the MOECP. But yeah, no updates.
Okay, so
there's a question there. Hold on.
oh, yeah.
Somebody asked me to unmute. Thank you. Many people want to keep me on mute, so I feel loved. There was a recent thing at council that Councillor Utley and Celeste moved forward to talk about perhaps using the Sydenham Pearl site for housing. I wasn't sure if we had any comment or notes on that.
Yeah, sorry, Councillor, that's something that I haven't heard of at this point. So I don't have any comments, sorry. That's
okay. I wish I had it in front of me. There's going to be a public information session about it. It came through committee. Essentially was that we need to build affordable housing and housing in general in this community. And that site's in Councillor Utley and Councillor Celeste's ward. And when we were talking about different locations where we would put, it was suggested that it should be investigated. So for anybody who's watching or for anybody who's taking notes, that's not saying we're building housing on the site or building affordable housing or city housing or anything on the site. It simply was to whether or not it was possible and should it be considered, and to do public consultation regarding it. So yeah, sorry, I wasn't sure.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Definitely something the committee should be aware of. Is it possible to request from you guys to find that and send out something to the committee members? It literally happened last month at council.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I can look into it and send something out.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Any more discussion on that? Not seeing any. So no resolutions, no notices of motion. So that's it. We are at the end of this meeting. We need a mover and a seconder to adjourn, I assume. Same procedure online.
I'll move it.
Okay, we have Linda and Janice.
Correct. So that's it, I guess.
Okay, so we'll let Barb signal when she has stopped the YouTube live stream, and then feel free, anyone who wants to just stick around to chat. We won't close the meeting just yet, but we'll let Barb or Josh let us know when it's done being streamed.